What's up, everybody? We are Thanksgiving Eve here today. The holidays are hitting us hard right now. It's exciting times, exciting time to be alive. A lot of us have a lot to be thankful for. And we are going to talk through today Amber Heard's counterclaim suing New York Marines, saying that they acted in bad faith and how they dealt with her situation with Johnny Depp, with their insurance policy, contractual claim, saying they did not do what they promised to do and what they advertised publicly that they do for the people that they insure. We're going to dive into this counterclaim today. We're also going to just briefly look at her answer because there's something very interesting about her answer based on what we already know. She's arguing about being stateless and no domicile, no place where she lives. So we're going to dive into that as well. But first, I want to say thank you on Thanksgiving Eve for everybody who's joining us, for all the subscribers, all the members, all the viewers of the channel that are here, that make this fun, that make this enjoyable, that ask the questions, that get engaged with this process. It makes it really rewarding to do as someone who makes these videos and talks about stuff that I do every day. You guys make it really fun because you're interested in this stuff and you dive into this stuff and want to have answers and learn the process and understand the process. And in honor of that, and in honor of two different subscribers calling me today to help them with their cases, some I could help with, some I could not, but they're just so nice and thankful for the time and a real lawyer saying, like, yes, call me if you have questions on an injury case, if you've been in a car accident, if you've been hurt, if there's a wrongful death or catastrophic injury, regardless of where you are in the United States, call me. If I can't help you with it, I'll try to find somebody who can. And for the most part, I can help with that. Sometimes I can't, but people are nice either way. And if you see right here over my left shoulder, someone I spoke to just recently already sent a gift basket. How nice is that? I mean, you guys take generosity above and beyond, and for that I'm thankful. And one of the main things I am thankful for right now this year and beyond, hopefully, is this YouTube channel and this community. So it's been really fun. I wanted to take a second to say thank you for that. And for me, my little gift back is going to be after we put some work in on this video and we dive into this legal document, answer these legal questions, we're going to have some fun. And we're going to do a Thanksgiving question and answer, whatever you want to call it, kind of like we did before. We take polls. What's your favorite main course, your favorite side, things like that. We're going to do that after this. After we get through this video, it's going to automatically redirect you to that. Subscribers and members can be in the chat. We're going to answer these questions together, have some fun, and take a poll as to what this channel likes best about the food we eat and the things we do on Thanksgiving. So stay tuned for that if you want to, as a little thank you, just to have some fun together, blow off some steam after some tough conversations and tough cases. But let's get to the reason why everybody's here. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you're still here for the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp content, P-Hop is tired of it. It's tired of this content, but they're still here because the chat is a good time. Rich Cat, I'm confused. What is this new claim, or what is this a counterclaim to? Let's get into that. All right, so we read not too long ago these agreements to stay, to extend time, where Amber Heard said that nobody's proved she has even domiciled in California at the time this insurance policy was put into effect. They made all these arguments, in the defense counsels for the two, or I guess they'd be plaintiffs in that case. The insurance companies said, this is an argument we haven't heard before. We've never heard her talk about a jurisdictional issue, a personal jurisdiction issue about where she lives, where she was domiciled, so we can't even really respond to that. Well, before we get to the counterclaim, first, this is the answer to their first amended complaint. So if we just bump down to paragraph 7, we see, answering paragraph 7, Ms. Heard admits that she is a natural person and was domiciled in California at the time of filing, except as expressly admitted. She denies the allegations in this paragraph. Now, does this look like fraud? Does this look like perjury? Can we believe that Amber Heard has potentially been untruthful or misleading in a prior motion that she filed? No. Unfortunately, lawyers and defendants and clients do things like this all the time. And there's not a ton of recourse for it, right? Because there's not going to be a judge that says, all right, I'm granting motion for summary judgment. I'm throwing this case out because they made this bogus argument about not having a domicile or being stateless. And then they admit it in the very next pleading that they file. I'm throwing this case out. Never happens. But what can you do when you're on the other side of a lawyer who acts like this? The answer is you put this in your pocket, you keep it, and you realize that every time they do something shady or have a delay or do something that's potentially misleading, you remember to also mention this. For example, if they don't answer discovery and say, oh, it was an accident, and then you give them another chance and they still don't answer discovery and they continue to delay and you have to file a motion to compel, you can say, Judge, this is not the first time something like this has happened. They also made this whole argument about the fact that we didn't prove domicile, we didn't prove personal jurisdiction, and then the very next pleading they admitted. That's similar to what they're doing here, Judge. Or let's say there's something they put in a court document that's misleading, that the deposition didn't actually say what defense counsel said that it says. And you can say, Judge, this is misleading. This is not what the deposition said. The deposition said this, that, and the other. This is kind of similar to when they made this domicile argument, and then in the very next pleading, they admitted it. So you can continue to use this because it's public documents that have been filed that are before the court. And while it's not going to win or lose a case for you, judges are human. And the more you can point out that the other side is trying these tactics, delay tactics, misleading tactics, the judge is not going to like that. And they're going to look at it a certain way. And you want to be the lawyer that the judge believes and trusts what they put into their documents. Doesn't mean you're always going to win, but they believe if you say something, at least what you said is true. If it's a legal argument, they'll apply it to the case law and make the decision. But you want to make sure that you are the one that is doing everything above board and being as ethical as possible. All right, so we're not going to get into this answer very much. If you guys want a full video on that, we can talk about it later. But what we really want to get to is the counterclaim. And we'll talk about what this counterclaim is. Let's read it together. Amber Heard files this counterclaim against New York Marine. New York Marine sold Ms. Heard an insurance policy in which it promised to defend and indemnify Ms. Heard against, among other things, lawsuits alleging that she defamed others. We read through this together, and that is true. Defamation was included in this policy. When Ms. Heard was sued by Johnny Depp for defamation, she timely notified New York Marine and asked New York Marine to defend her, I believe is what that's supposed to say. While New York Marine promised to do so, it did not provide the full and capable defense to which Ms. Heard was entitled. And those are words that are litigatable. Full and capable defense. My phone is literally will not stop buzzing, of course. And it's all these robocalls probably. Full and capable defense. It failed to pay the attorney's fees and costs that it was obligated to pay for Ms. Heard's defense. And it acted in other ways that prejudiced Ms. Heard and her defense. This is kind of like a summary of the case. In acting in this manner, and as described in greater detail below, New York Marine breached its contractual duties, tortiously violated the insurance policy's implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, and repudiated the duties that it still owes to Ms. Heard while she pursues her appeal in the lawsuit brought by Mr. Depp. New York Marine's conduct and its coverage positions are contrary to the terms of its insurance policy, the law, the facts, and the insurance industry's customs and practice. So these are also what we're going to litigate this case about. Their coverage positions basically denying, say, we don't cover you for this, we're denying coverage for that, are contrary to the terms of its insurance policy. So does the insurance policy say the same thing and present the same position that they're taking in this case? The law, what does the case law say about it? How has this been dealt with in other cases? The facts, what happened in this case that we have to apply to that insurance policy and to the law in this case? And then the industry, customs, and practice. So do you have something that's just fundamentally unfair in your insurance policy that nobody would read, nobody would understand? Something like saying you cover for defamation, but then saying you don't cover for intentional torts. So is it only negligent defamation? Is actual malice intentional? Is that fundamentally unfair or against industry customs and practice in the insurance industry? Ms. Heard is entitled to recover damages to compensate her for the injuries that New York Marine has inflicted and punitive damages because of New York Marine's tortious bad faith. And bad faith are some buzzwords when it comes to insurance. Insurance companies acting in bad faith can happen in a myriad of ways. They can either refuse to negotiate, acting in bad faith. They can offer you so much less than your claim is worth, which would be acting in bad faith. They can refuse to defend your claim, like here, saying it's in bad faith. They can make up bogus ways to deny claims, which would be bad faith. They can breach their contract because they realize it's going to be too expensive to fulfill their contract. That can be bad faith. All sorts of different ways they can act in bad faith. Jurisdiction and venue. This court has jurisdiction and the venue is proper in California. The parties. Ms. Heard is an actor. She appeared in films such as Aquaman and the Justice League. She's informed and believes. I just love how they take 4 paragraphs to explain who Ms. Heard is, as opposed to she's an individual that was domiciled in California at the time of this insurance policy. She believes on that basis alleged that New York Marine is a corporation organized and incorporated under the laws of the state of New York. She is informed and believes they're a sophisticated national insurance company and holds itself out as offering excellent customer service and an experienced claims handling team, meaning they know what they're doing. And they have certain duties because of the type of company they are and because of how they hold themselves out to be. What do they tell their insureds? How do they entice people to buy New York Marine insurance policies? Because we're going to hear that in a little bit. New York Marine is part of the Coaction Specialty Insurance Group. They'll be calling Coaction adversaries, and they'll be called Coaction in the future. They advertise and make public statements, including on its website, on behalf of New York Marine and other member companies, including New York Marine. Coaction uses its website to market its insurance products, represent the nature of its insurance products, its policy underwriting, and its claims handling, and represents the quality of insurance and service customers of its group members will receive if they do business with a Coaction company. Ms. Heard is informed and believes, and on that basis, that New York Marine authorized the statements and representations that Coaction has made on its website, that those statements and representations are made on behalf of New York Marine. So basically, they're part of this Coaction. Coaction makes these statements. It's basically like New York Marine makes these statements. They could call them the Coaction New York Marine statements, kind of like the Waldman Depp statements, right? That's what they could call them. And that's basically how it is in this situation. So what do they say? What do they represent that New York Marine does? The intrinsic beliefs are important in and of themselves, but they state on the website, today, Coaction is a full specialty underwriter across 5 major product verticals: property, casualty, entertainment, executive liability, and multi-line. Their authentic, collaborative, and results-oriented culture is reflected in the focused approach the company takes to fulfilling the needs of each individual customer by combining product analytics and underwriting capabilities with strong industry knowledge and partnership to develop real-world solutions. They're customer-focused. We serve the customer. Hold on a second. Oh, it's because the mic, I just got texted the mic doesn't sound good. That's because my mic was really far away. That's unfortunate. Sorry for the first 15 minutes of the video, but hopefully that sounds better. All right. There we go. All right. Sorry about that, everybody, if it sounded a little echoey. All right. They're customers focused. They serve the customer, whether they be the broker, policyholder, or another internal or external customer. It is fundamental to everything we do and is a core focus of our decision-making. Integrity and respect. We consistently display honesty and consideration for the feelings, wishes, right, and tradition of others across our undertakings, even and especially when no one is watching. So they use this type of language against companies, and that's not abnormal. When you put yourself out there to be above reproach and you work with integrity and respect, and then you do something that screws your insured, that insured is absolutely going to use that against you. Accountability. We accept responsibility for our own actions and are willing to be judged based on the performance. It requires a willingness to be transparent. These are all things that they will absolutely hear in front of a jury when Amber Heard says, all I want them to do is what their contract says, which says they're going to cover me. It says they're going to defend me, even if it's a frivolous claim, which is what that documentation says. Oh, I see Tori's comment up here. I thought we talked about the paperwork, and if she was willful and malicious, they don't have to pay. Potentially, they don't have to pay, but that's not the same thing as not having to defend, right? And we'll get to this question and more in a little bit. All right, hold on one second. All right. Coaction represents to the public more things, right? We are experts. Coaction is more than an insurance company. We're a specialty company. Coaction has been writing entertainment business for over a decade with a team of experts located in Southern California, New York, New Jersey, who have dedicated their entire careers to these customers. So my guess is she got this information from somebody else in the entertainment business saying you should get this type of insurance because it's good for famous people. Target customers are artists and entertainers, which we know Amber Heard holds herself out to be, as does Johnny Depp. Coaction also states in its entertainment fact sheet final that they strive to provide an exceptional claims handling experience to our clients. Our average claims adjuster has over 15 years of experience and are strategically aligned with our underwriting vertical to provide our insured and claimants a specialized claims encounter, including expert claims team known for its quality, commitment, and integrity. Policies are underwritten by the insurers of Coaction Specialty Insurance Group, which includes New York Marine. Coaction has $1.1 billion in estimated 2022 premiums and $3.2 billion, that's with a B, in total assets. So what have we learned here? Coaction and New York Marine, they hold themselves out to be a certain kind of insurance company, specifically dealing with entertainment cases, targeting entertainment clients like Amber Heard. I don't know if any of you guys have been sold an insurance policy before where the insurance company tells you, oh, we pay our claims, we handle our claims quickly, lots of things that we do, we move it along quicker than anybody else does or than these other companies do. When it blows up in your face as an insured person with that insurance company, you want to hold that against them and you want to hold their feet to the fire because that's why you picked them, because they told you they handle. If they told Amber Heard, this is the type of case we handle, if anything like this pops up in your entertainment industry, if anything you say gets held against you publicly, we are here. We are going to defend it. We are going to pay for your defense and then pay up to $1 million per cause of action. So the policy. What does the policy say? And we've looked at it together, which makes this fun to see how Amber Heard's lawyers look at this policy, because every lawyer can look at a policy or a document or a statute, as we know, and see it very differently. So what did they pull out? The named insured under the Black Sky Inc., as per named insured extension schedule, which schedule is misheard as the named insured. Policy contains multiple coverage parts, each of which provides several separate coverages to misheard. The commercial liability, general liability coverage form provides $1 million for any one person for personal and advertising injury. This seems so much to me, as like when we read it together, that this should cover defamation. The comprehensive personal liability coverage separately provides $1 million in each occurrence for personal liability. The policy's commercial general liability coverage forms, coverage B, personal and advertising liability, obligated New York Marine to pay those sums that misheard becomes legally to pay as damages because of personal and advertising injury. It also obligated New York Marine to defend. Okay, so first off, The question as to whether or not it was an intentional act or an intentional tort made with actual malice, and if they would have to pay the $1 million at the end, that is one question. And we saw that this policy is kind of almost contradicting. Yes, we cover you for defamation. No, we don't cover you for intentional torts or actual malice claims. Well, what if the defamation is an intentional tort? What if the defamation is having actual malice as it does in this case? I think that's a question potentially we may have to ask a jury. What do they think when they look at this document? I don't know if it's going to be a question that's answered as a matter of law by this judge in a motion for summary judgment. But setting that question aside, it seems very clear that regardless of if the claim is frivolous, regardless of whether or not Amber Heard is denying that she did this intentional tort or acted with actual malice. So throughout the entirety of the case, they absolutely have a duty to defend according to their policy. Now, did they do everything they needed to and Amber Heard breached the contract, which made them not to have to fulfill that duty? We'll see. But this complaint is going to sound good as far as it goes with breaching their duty to defend. It also obligated New York Marine to defend Ms. Heard against any suit seeking damages for personal and advertising injury. The policy defines personal and advertising injury to mean injury, including consequential bodily injury arising out of one or more of the following offenses: oral or written publication in any manner of material that slanders or libels a person. The policy's personal liability and coverage obligated New York Marine to pay up to its limits of liability for damages for which Ms. Heard is legally liable. If a claim or a suit is brought against Ms. Heard because of personal injury caused by an occurrence, comprehensive personal liability coverage L. The comprehensive personal liability coverage also obligated New York Marine to provide defenses at its expense by counsel of its choice, even if the suit is groundless, false, or fraudulent, or as I say, frivolous. Personal injury is defined to include injury arising out of one or more of the following offenses: oral or written publication of material that slanders or libels a person or organization, including other forms of defamation, or oral or written publication of material including other forms of defamation that violates a person's right of privacy. To an average person reading that, it sounds like it covers defamation, which is exactly what she was sued for. To the extent not waived or otherwise excused, Ms. Heard has complied with all terms and conditions contained in the policy. Of course, that's easy, right? Just paragraph 16. She's done everything she needs to do. The Depp lawsuit, we know Johnny Depp filed a lawsuit against Amber Heard for defamation. And here is New York Marine's breaches and bad faith conduct. She notified them, and they initially agreed to defend Ms. Heard, subject to a reservation of rights. Unfortunately for Ms. Heard, their performance never lived up to their promises. And you're going to hear some fighting language here, right? Like despicable action on the insurance company's part. Plaintiffs' lawyers loves to do this too when they sue insurance companies. Indeed, they never fully paid for Ms. Heard's defenses, leaving Ms. Heard, and this is important and interesting, leaving Ms. Heard to incur hundreds of thousands of dollars in defense costs not paid by any insurer. So this is now, we've heard it under oath in trial, said by lawyers. We're seeing it in black and white here in these file documents that Ms. Heard had to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dollars paying for the cost of her defense. Now, is that true, or did the insurance company pay it? Because it seems like we're getting some conflicting reports. They withdrew from Ms. Heard's defense and expressly repudiated its duties to defend or indemnify Ms. Heard, and have consistently placed its interest above Ms. Heard's. Well, they are an insurance company, and this is what you can expect out of just about every insurance company, that when they hire the lawyers and it's their pocketbook and they're going to do what's best for them, not their insured, no matter if it says in the legal documents that their lawyer represents Amber Heard, they actually represent New York Marine, because they're always looking out for the insurance company's best interest first. Can promise you that from experience. Specifically, in October of 2019, the New York Marine reserved rights to deny coverage on the ground that Ms. Heard behaved intentionally, thus creating a conflict of interest with Ms. Heard and giving Ms. Heard the right to independent counsel. with New York Marine being obligated to pay for the fees and costs of the independent counsel. Nonetheless, New York Marine refused to agree to defend Ms. Heard through independent counsel and instead appointed its own counsel. So sometimes things happen in cases with insurance companies where you can tell the insurance company and the insured are going to be at odds. And when that happens, sometimes you do need to have independent counsel come in, represent Ms. Heard, paid for by the insurance company, because they're saying at the end of the day, we think this is a claim that we're probably not going to have to pay. So it might not be fair if our lawyer, who's looking out for our best interest, number one, is representing you, while at the same time making sure we don't get screwed. We have actually been brought into cases a couple times as independent counsel representing the actual person that's being sued and making sure the insurance company does not screw them. And in every case, we have gotten the insurance company to pay every single dollar that was needed for our client. Now, in our cases, our clients paid us out of pocket because they didn't have the benefit of that. They didn't actually they did. But the independent counsel the insurance company picked, they still did not feel was independent after some of the work that was done. They still felt like they were looking out for the insurance company's best interest. So they then went ahead and hired us. It's only happened a handful of times. I can count it on less than what's on one hand. But it's always shady things the insurance company's trying to do to deny claims, pay less on claims, or have a reservation of rights saying, depending on how this all shakes out, we don't think we'll have to pay. And they're allowed to do that. Okay, they're allowed to do that. And in this case, they may even be right. They could have reserved those rights to say, if it comes down to be an intentional tort, actual malice, we don't have to pay it. But regardless of how that fight ends, they still have to pay and have a duty to defend. All right, let's get back to this. They refused to agree to defend Ms. Heard through independent counsel and instead appointed its own counsel. Despite requests from Ms. Heard to reconsider, New York Marine persisted in its position, making it impossible for Ms. Heard to fully accept this defense provided by New York Marine without prejudicing her defense in the Depp lawsuit. New York Marine's appointed counsel ultimately withdrew on November 20th, 2020. So again, who's right here? Do they have to pay for an independent counsel? Yes. But is that independent counsel truly independent? It seems like Ms. Heard thought the answer was no. So she didn't want that independent counsel. And New York Marine said, this is as far as we're going to go is to pay for this person. Now, in our cases, we had independent counsel working with us. They did the bulk of the heavy lifting, cleared it through us. They paid for the experts, clearing it through us and making sure we agreed with the experts that they chose. But we did work with the independent counsel in that case. And it seems like Amber Heard didn't in this case, which is her prerogative. But how far does New York Marine have to go to pay for this stuff? It's interesting, right? Ms. Heard is informed and believes, and on that basis alleges, that New York Marine thereafter agreed to participate in the defense of Ms. Heard by reimbursing Ms. Heard's defending insured travelers. So here is going to be a dispute. Ms. Heard thought New York Marine agreed they were going to pay half of what travelers paid. Seems like New York Marine does not remember that agreement. For some of the amounts it had already paid and was paying toward the defense, but it has never done so. Thus, at no point has New York Marine fully honored its duty to defend Ms. Heard in the Depp lawsuit. So at some point, Amber Heard says, listen, we couldn't come to an agreement on what independent counsel is. We agreed with Travelers Counsel, so New York Marine agreed we'll just pay part of what Travelers pays, but they've never done that. Once judgment was entered in the Depp lawsuit in accord with the jury's verdict, meaning she lost, New York Marine took the position that it need not defend or indemnify Ms. Heard, even though that judgment is not final and has been appealed and may be reversed on appeal. Ms. Heard believes that New York Marine took this position to benefit its own economic interest at the expense of Ms. Heard's interest. And even though it knew or should have known that their position is contrary to the law and does not excuse New York Marine from its duty to defend, including the duty to pursue and fund an appeal on her behalf. Wow, an insurance company taking the position to benefit its own economic interests? I never would think that. I thought it was all the lawyer's fault that the premiums are going up. Yet insurance companies continue to make billions of dollars every year. Sorry, that's my bias. By refusing to provide the defense to which Ms. Heard was and is entitled in the Depp lawsuit, and by wrongfully asserting that Ms. Heard is not entitled to indemnity for any amount that Ms. Heard might be legally obligated to pay in any judgment in or settlement of the DEP lawsuit, New York Marine has wrongfully repudiated and refused to perform its duties. And in so, they have deprived Ms. Heard from receiving the full benefits that she was promised and to which she's entitled under the policy because she did pay for that, right? She did pay for that. All right, let's answer a couple questions before we get to the causes of action. Kat in Virginia, is AH a sov sit, subject matter jurisdiction? I don't think so. Even for her, that would be a stretch. I thought we talked about the paperwork and said she was willful and malicious. They didn't have to pay. We have talked about that a couple times. Tori, I think I answered that one. Johnny's girl, if she was found liable for defamation with malice, they don't pay, right? I don't know. I think that there could be an argument legally about how these words are defined and if it's appropriate and if they misled Amber Heard and other insureds that signed these documents. And that's what they're accusing them here of, acting in bad faith. In your opinion, is there a chance that Amber Heard is covered for the $8 million? Could she get out of paying? Not get out of paying, right? I mean, if you have insurance and your insurance pays, that's why you have insurance and that counts as you paying. Now, what's interesting is this is a per occurrence type of insurance. And they sued her on 3 different statements and she was found liable on 3 different statements. So does that mean it's actually $3 million? I think that's another potential argument for Johnny Depp's lawyers and Amber Heard's lawyers to potentially work together. New York Marine, pay $3 million. They pay $3 million and Travelers pays $3 million. Maybe they'll forgive Amber the other $2 million. Who knows? A lot of things can happen here still. Sydney Alberts, insurance agent here. Love the discussion. So interesting to me. Happy Thanksgiving. And Sydney, I don't mean any offense when I'm making jokes about the insurance companies. Trust me, you and probably all those insurance companies make jokes about personal injury lawyers too, right? And it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. And I'm glad you're here. I love that you're here. We have a bunch of insurance agents and people that work in the insurance agency that are subscribers and that are in the chat all the time. And they add a ton to the conversation. I've had people email me, tell me this is how we look at it. If you ever wonder, like, this is how an insurance agent looks at it, or this is how a corporate level person that works in an insurance company looks at it. So it's really cool. And if you feel like I'm saying anything incorrectly about how an insurance company deals with independent counsel and paying a lawyer on their own and deals with the insured, I've seen the letters they write the insured that says, we represent the insurance company first. And the insurance company can pay whether or not you want them to pay. And sometimes it goes the other way, where the client doesn't want the insurance company to pay and they pay anyways because they want to get rid of the claim and make a business decision. So very cool. And Cosme CPR, we've got a bunch of new members coming in here. Ashling is a new member and Southern Mama. What's up? Southern Mama is a member now. All right. Robin Jarvis, thank you so much for the super sticker. And that's going to take us into count 1, breach of contract. New York Marine had and has a duty under the policy, the law, and the insurance industry custom and practice to fully defend Ms. Heard against the DEP lawsuit. I agree with that, unless they were sent away and it was impossible for them to do so. But I've actually seen insurance companies just keep sending a lawyer to sit there and do nothing so that somebody can't claim this. And so there can't be a misunderstanding. Like, if we're sending our own lawyer, you obviously realize we're not splitting the bill for the lawyer that you've chosen, right? So maybe they could have done that and saved themselves some of the headache. The duty arose at least at the time it received the notice of the DEP lawsuit and continues until the DEP lawsuit is finally resolved, including appeals. New York Marine also had and has a duty under the policy, the law, and the insurance custom and practice to promptly conduct a full and thorough investigation, including as to all bases that might support Ms. Heard's claim for coverage. They also had and have a duty to give at least as much consideration to Ms. Heard interest as it gives its own interest. Yeah, right. New York Marine breached these duties by, okay, so how did they breach these duties? By, among other things, refusing to fully and properly defend Ms. Heard in the DEP lawsuit. Now, these are the types of words, like I said, that you litigate over. What does it mean to fully and properly defend? Repudiating its duty to indemnify Ms. Heard for any amounts that she may be obligated to pay. Now, this one, they could have a good argument as to why they could deny to pay there. So that one, I feel like would, based on the contract language, strictly speaking, leans toward the insurance company. But I do think that Amber Heard does have an argument. It was either confusing, contradictory, or read in the light most favorable to the person that did not write the contract, could actually be read Amber Heard's way. But I would still lean toward the insurance company on that side. I would lean towards Amber Heard that they have to pay to defend, toward the insurance company that they may be able to deny it because of the actual malice. Otherwise refusing to perform its duties under the policy and acting as alleged above. So kind of the catch-all. As a direct and proximate as a direct and proximate result of New York Marine's contractual breaches, Ms. Heard has sustained and continues to sustain damages in the amount to be proven at trial exceeding $75,000. Tortious breach of implied covenant. And in case you wanted to know what a tortious breach is, or a tortious act, it's a bad act. The tortfeasor. A tort is like negligence, or an intentional tort can be battery. So tortious breach is like a bad breach. And it's actionable. Implied in the policy is a covenant that New York Marine would act in good faith. So implied in every insurance contract is that the insurance company and the insured will act in good faith and deal fairly. So we call it good faith and fair dealing. With Ms. Heard, they would do nothing to interfere with Ms. Heard's right to receive benefits due under the policy, and would give at least the same level of consideration to Ms. Heard's interest as it gives its own interests. New York Marine also had a duty under the policy, the law, and the insurance industry's custom practice and standards to conduct a prompt and thorough investigation, including as to all bases that might support Ms. Heard's claim for coverage before asserting coverage defenses or denying coverage. So they're also saying that they didn't even look into and try to see if they would be able to cover Ms. Heard, which is always what happens. They always actually look for the opposite. They are looking to not pay claims for the most part, in my opinion. So when we talk about how this process works and what insurance companies are supposed to do for their insured, they're supposed to protect them. And usually what we will do as plaintiffs' lawyers is we'll give them every opportunity. We'll say, here's an example, okay? In Florida, insurance companies mostly don't have to insure for a DUI accident, let's say for the punitive damages that can be associated with that. And when you have punitive damage that the insurance company doesn't necessarily have to cover, and there's a DUI accident, they know that we are going to claim those punitive damages in a lawsuit. And we will discuss that with the insurance company. We say, we know you're not going to pay it. However, in an effort to protect your insured, we are willing to settle for X amount paid by you and release all the claims, including punitive damages. And the insurance company at that point has to make a decision. Do they want to protect their insured? And if they don't, and they had the opportunity to, even though they don't have to pay those punitive damages, there has been some case law where they did not properly and in good faith protect their insured when they should have and could have that opportunity pre-suit or early on in the lawsuit. So even though they may have a good opportunity to deny paying the claim, if they are going to have to pay something on the claim, or if the judge does find that they could have protected their insured in a way that they chose not to protect their own interests, then that could potentially be bad faith. All right, instead of complying with these duties, New York Marine acted in bad faith by, among other things, refusing to fully and properly defend, refusing to indemnify up to the policy limit, failing to fully inquire into possible basis that might support coverage as opposed to deny it, asserting grounds for limiting coverage that it knows are not supported by, and in fact, contrary to the terms of the policy, law, and insurance industry. So they're saying, not only are you wrong, but you knew you were wrong based on the facts, the law, and industry customs and practices. Taking coverage positions that are contrary to Ms. Heard's reasonable expectations of the coverage. This is what I was talking about. How would somebody reasonably read this, and what would they expect if they were going to pay for this insurance? Giving greater consideration to its own interests than it gave Ms. Heard's interest, and based on the information, believe appropriate handling guidelines and failing to consider and act in accord with the governing legal requirements. In the breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, New York Marine did the things and committed the acts alleged above for the purpose of consciously withholding from Ms. Heard the rights and benefits to which she is and was entitled under the policy of law. What else is interesting sometimes, and I talked about this, is sometimes Johnny Depp's lawyers would actually be hired by Amber Heard in this case to sue the insurance company for bad faith if they're refusing to pay. So it's like they come on your side and you're like, all right, listen, I beat you. You owe me this money. But instead of you having to pay me this money, we both think your insurance company should have to pay. So let's come together and sue your insurance company. Or you can hire my lawyers, or let's find a bad faith lawyer. Let's work together to find you a really good bad faith lawyer so that they can go sue the insurance company on your behalf, because this insurance company should pay me $1 or $3 million or whatever it may be. That happens sometimes in cases. New York Marine's acts are inconsistent with the reasonable expectations of Ms. Heard, are contrary to established insurance industry customs and practices, are contrary to legal requirements, are contrary to express terms of the policy, and constitute bad faith. As a direct and proximate cause of the breach, she sustained damages. She is informed and believes one or more of the officers with discretionary authority over significant aspects of New York Marine performed, authorized, and ratified the bad faith conduct. That's just a condition precedent. So one of the higher ups has to ratify it or authorize it. Here we go. New York Marine's conduct is despicable and has been done with a conscious disregard of Ms. Heard's rights, constituting oppression, fraud, and or malice. New York Marine has engaged in a series of acts designed to deny Ms. Heard's benefits under the policy. Specifically, New York Marine, by acting as alleged above in light of the information, facts, and relevant law to the contrary, consciously disregarded Ms. Heard's rights and forced Ms. Heard to incur substantial financial losses, thereby inflicting substantial financial damage on Ms. Heard. They ignored Ms. Heard's interests and concerns with the requisite intent to injure within the meaning of California Civil Code Section 3294. Therefore, Ms. Heard is entitled to recover punitive damages from New York Marine in an amount sufficient to punish and make an example of New York Marine and to deter similar conduct in the future. So anybody that's asking, what is the purpose of punitive damages? It's summarized nicely here. To deter similar conduct and to make an example of companies that act this way. And how do you get to punitive damages? You argue that the conduct is despicable and they constituted oppression, fraud, and or malice. Well, it's the pot. They engaged in a series of acts that were designed to deny her the benefits. They consciously disregarded her rights and acted in contrary to the relevant law. This paragraph is explaining punitive damages, which are allowed under this tortious breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. So you choose certain causes of action that have punitive damages in situations like this because it gives you a lot more leverage, gives you a lot more upside, and you can really get into what you think the insurance company did as despicable actions that are claimed here. So prayer for relief. What is Amber Heard looking for? Damages, according to the proof at the time of trial plus interest. Damages, including, on the second count, attorney's fees for this case as well. So pay for my fees in the other case, pay to defend me, but also pay for my attorney's fees for me having to sue you for bad faith. And then punitive damages, as we discussed, for costs and other relief deemed just. Very interesting. It is it's a very interesting claim here, right? It's what happens a lot of times in a ton of cases, especially car accident cases or wrongful death cases where the insurance company refuses to pay what they know they should pay, or underinsured motorist cases where it's your own insurance that you pay for and they say, nah, we're not going to pay for those medical bills. It happens all the time. All right, let's get to some questions. Texas Katie did. Do you think New York Marine misled Amber Heard? What I'm questioning is the provision to indemnify her versus not paying for a judgment where she's at fault. Doesn't seem to be both. Can be true. I think they absolutely misled her. But I think it comes down to when it seems like they're going to cover her for libel, slander, defamation. I would think that would cover this, right? But they put in these little clauses where could they even cover defamation, right? Negligent defamation. They're going to have to get into whether this stuff can be negligent, whether it can be intentional, and if it's unconscionable that this insurance policy would even make sense or is so contradictory as to be so unfair to Amber Heard that it can only be read to say they actually do have to cover her for defamation. Boom, pay the $1 million. It's going to be interesting to follow for sure. I have to step out for a CT scan. So will the insurance company have to pay all $8.37 million if she wins? So there's another good point. Sometimes when you make these kind of claims, you can then ask for the insurance company, and we don't know what happened, right? We don't know what happened at the settlement conferences, but let's say Amber Heard or Johnny Depp offered to settle for $1 million or for $3 million from this insurance company. And the insurance company said, no, we don't even have to pay this stuff. Well, if they had the opportunity to settle it back then for within this insurance policy, and the insurance company said no, wrongfully and in bad faith, and then Johnny Depp went and got this verdict, it is possible that Amber Heard could ask for them to pay the entire amount because they had the opportunity to protect her within the policy that she paid for, and they didn't. Now, it's a lot of speculation and adding a lot of facts, but the true answer, as lawyers love to say, is it depends, and that's what it could depend on. Question, would you look into the Britney Spears guardianship? We've done a couple of videos on that. We'll see if we do any more on it. Ashling, been following since HJD trial. Just want to say thank you for your excellent coverage across the board. I've learned so much from you and truly look forward to all your videos. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much, Ashling. And hopefully you can join us very soon. In about 5 minutes, we're going to hop over and do kind of a fun video. Michelle W. Does the insurance company have any way to prove she was acting in bad faith getting into this contract when she knew she was going to do so? I don't know if they have that information. If they do, I'm sure we will see it in this case because that would be relevant and interesting to talk about in this case. Teresa is a new member. Okay, before we go, I just want to talk about one last thing with this. So John, I don't know if you can push that video start time to like 2:55 or something. So what happens if they settle? A lot of things can happen in settlements like we talked about. And if they settle, all of these claims could potentially go away. If they settle, they can potentially dismiss the action or say that the final judgment is satisfied and put it to bed. The appeals could go away. So many different things that we will probably talk about on another video could happen if they settle still now. And they can settle on anything. That's what's kind of cool about settlements. As long as it's legal, they can settle on, okay, here's what we'll reimburse for attorney's fees. Here's what we'll pay Johnny Depp. If Johnny Depp will take that, and all these moving parts together, if they can come to some kind of settlement, a lot of this can go away. And that's why so many of these arguments that are made, that as long as there is a dispute of a material fact and a cognizable thing that you can fight about, settlement possibilities are always on the table. All right. So that's all we have here for the Amber Heard counterclaim. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And if you do, hit that like button, okay? Because we are going to redirect here at like 2:50 or something. Or I think you automatically redirect to our chill, low-key Thanksgiving Day. Let's have some fun for 30 minutes before we all take off for our holiday. And I appreciate it. Sorry if I didn't get to your question. A lot of it was reading that complaint because I wanted to get through that counterclaim and talk through it and hit all the points that we thought were important. I've got a ton of questions already on Instagram and Twitter at Tragos Law. Follow me on there and you can send me messages there. I don't always answer them in the messages, but I try to answer a lot of them here. And that's what I did during this video. So you guys are the best. Yes, all 2,000 of you, hit that like button, please. Until next time, okay? Until next time, which is very shortly.